Dear ones, are you ready for the third installment of The Swordsman of Mars by Otis Adelbert Klein? I was hoping you'd say so. I've got my tea. I hope you've got something delicious to drink on your end. When last we met our hero, he had just fallen forward onto his face in the middle of a group of Martians who had challenged his manhood, or Martianhood, as the case may be. Will he survive? Will he overcome? Will he complete the mission? Chapter 3. Thorne woke to a weirdly beautiful sight. 2 full moons were shining down on him from a black sky in which the stars sparkled like brilliant jewels. He was lying on a bed which was suspended by 4 chains on a single, large, flexible cable which depended from the ceiling, and had his view of the sky through a large circular window. He turned on his side, the better to look around him, and as he did so, saw Lalvac seated on a legless chair, suspended, like his bed, on a single cable which was fastened to the ceiling. "Hello, Lalvac," he said. "What happened?" "I regret to inform you that you are in disgrace. If you had told me before the duel that you were weak from loss of blood, I could have delayed the meeting. It was only after I had brought you here that I discovered your wound, and by that time the news had gone about that you were afraid, that you had dropped your sword when faced by Selhan." "Selhan? What? That's the man Dr. Morgan wanted me to kill." "The same. On Earth he was Frank Boyd, a robber of mines and a jumper of claims, so the doctor informed me. I'll challenge Selhan as soon as I'm up and around again. That ought to square everything. And if I win, why, the first part of my mission will have been accomplished." "Unfortunately," replied the scientist, "that will be impossible. According to our Martian code, it would be unethical for you, under any circumstances, to provoke another duel with Selhan. He, on the other hand, may insult or humiliate you as he likes, so long as he uses no physical violence and does not have to stand challenge from you, for he is technically the victor." "Then what am I to do?" "That will rest with Sheb Takor. As Borgin Takor, you are, of course, son of Sheb, the Rad of Takor. If he were to die, your name would become Sheb. As it is, you are the Zorad of Takor. Zorad in your language might be translated Viscount, and Rad, Earl. The titles, of course, no longer have meaning, except that they denote noble blood, as the Swarm has changed all that." "The Swarm?" Lalvac nodded. "I can think of no other English equivalent for our word Kamud. The Kamud is the new order of government which took control of Zanzibar about 10 Martian years, or nearly 19 Earth years ago. At that time, like other Martian vilates or empires of the present day, we had a vil, or emperor. Although his office was hereditary, he could be deposed at any time by the will of the people, and a new vil elected. For the most part, our people were satisfied, but there suddenly rose into power a man named Irintz Tell. He taught that an ideal community could be attained by imitating the communal life of the black bees. Under his system, the individual exists for the benefit of the community, not the community for the benefit of the individuals. Irintz Tell did not gather many followers, but those who flocked to his banner were vociferous and vindictive. At length, they decided to establish their form of government by force. Hearing this, Miradon, our vil, abdicated rather than see his people involved in a civil war. He could have crushed the upstart, of course, but many lives would have been lost, and he preferred the more peaceful way. As soon as Miradonville was gone, Irins Tel and his henchmen seized the reins of the government of Dukor, the capital of Zanzibar. After considerable fighting, he established the Kamud, which now owns all land, buildings, waterways, mines, and commercial enterprises within our borders. He promised us annual elections, but once he was firmly established as Dixtar of Zanzibar, this promise was repudiated. Theoretically, like all other citizens, Irins Tel owns nothing except his personal belongings. But actually, he owns and controls all of Zanzibar in the name of the Kamud, and has the absolute power of life and death over every citizen. What do people think of this arrangement? Asked Thorne. Do they submit to such tyranny? They have no choice, replied Lelvac. Irins Tel rules with an iron hand. His spies are everywhere, and those who are detected speaking against his regime are quickly done away with. Some are executed, charged with some trumped-up offense, usually treason to the Kamud. Men in high places are often challenged and slain by Irins Tel's hired swordsmen. Others are sent to the mines, which means that they will not live long. I will leave you now. You must sleep. My wounds, I had forgotten them. Thorne raised his hand to his face, where the sword of Selhan had slashed him. He felt no soreness, only a porous, pumice-like protrusion traveling the length of the gash. The wound in his side was covered with a similar substance. I had them dressed as soon as you were brought here, said the scientist. They should not pain you now. They don't. And what a strange dressing. It is Regemble, a flexible aromatic gum which is antiseptic, protects the wound from infection, and is porous enough to absorb seepage. Wounds closed with this gum usually heal quickly, painlessly, and without leaving scars. I go now. Sleep well, and tomorrow I will come to give you your first lesson in our language. Early the next morning, Thorne was awakened. He saw the white-haired Lelvac smiling down at him. Behind him stood an orderly, who carried a large bowl which he placed on a tripod beside the bed. The orderly saluted and withdrew. The bowl was divided into sections like a scooped-out grapefruit. In one section reposed several slices of grilled food. In another was a whole raw fruit, purple in color and cubical in shape. In the third was a hollow cube containing an aromatic pink beverage. Thorne sampled one of the grilled slices. The flavor baffled him, as it did not appear to be either flesh or vegetable. Having finished the strange grilled food, he tasted the pink beverage. It was slightly bitter and about as acidic as a ripe orange. A sip sent an instant glow through his veins. "What's the stuff?" he asked. "Polcho. A single cup is stimulating, but many are intoxicating." Thorne finished the beverage, and Lelvac instantly set about teaching him the things he must know in order to establish himself as Borgin Tekor. Although Thorne's wounds healed in a few days, Lelvac used them as a pretense to keep him in the room for about 20. The Earthman learned the language quickly, for stored in the brain cells of the Martian body which he had become, his were the recollections of all the sounds and their meanings. One day, an orderly came to announce that there was a man below calling himself Yiril Du, who asked to see Sheb Takor. "Let him come up," said Lelvac. When the orderly had gone out, he said to Thorne, "You heard what he said? He asked for Sheb Takor." "Yes." "What does it mean?" "It means that Sheb Takor, father of Borgin Takor, is dead. Hence, you are Sheb Takor. This is one of the Takor retainers who knows you, so call him by name when he appears before us." A moment later, a short, stocky man entered the room. His features were coarse but kindly. He raised one huge hand in salute, saying, "I shield my eyes, my lord Sheb, Rad of Takor." Thorne smiled and returned his salute. "Greetings, Yeraldu. This is my instructor, Lalvak." "I shield my eyes, Excellency." "You forget that under the Commune all men are equal," said Lalvak, returning his salute. "And one man no longer says to another, 'I shield my eyes, my lord,' or 'Excellency.' I do not forget that I am hereditary gen of the Takor Free Swordsman, nor that Sheb Takor is my liege. From our isolated position, we of Takar know little of the Commune. We have submitted to it because our Rad, emulating Miradon Vil, saw fit to do so. So long as Takor Rad rules us, though he is only the agent of the Commune, we are content, and life goes on much as usual." "You have come to escort your new Rad back to Takar, I presume." "That is my purpose, Excellency." "Then suppose you see about the guards while we make ready for the journey. I will accompany your Rad and spend a few days with him." "I go, Your Excellency." Yeraldu saluted and withdrew. "Strange," said Thorne when he was gone. "He said nothing about the death of Sheb Takor the Elder." "His words conveyed the tidings," said Lalvak. "A dead man's friends or relatives must not speak of him nor of his death until his ashes have been ceremonially scattered." "When will that take place?" "Upon your arrival. As his son and successor, you should be present at the ceremony. When it is completed, you may talk as freely as you like." While they were talking, both men had belted on their weapons and adjusted their head cloaks. They descended to the courtyard and crossed to the lagoon, where Yeraldu waited with 3 guards attended by orderlies. Lalvak edged closer to him. "Watch Yeraldu and me, and set your course as we do," he whispered. "You will be supposed to lead, but as you don't know the way, you will have to depend on the one or the other of us for guidance." In a few moments, all was in readiness. The 3 ungainly mounts trotted forward, spread their membranous wings, and took to the air. By glancing right and left at his 2 companions, Thorne was easily able to gauge their course and steer his bird beast accordingly. They set out in a direction which he judged was due west. Then, far ahead, Thorne saw a straight, high wall which stretched as far as he could see to the north and the south. It was constructed of black stone, and at intervals of about a half-mile, towers built from the same material projected above it. The aqueduct which they were following led straight up to and entered this wall. As they drew near it, armed men became visible, patrolling the battlements. Soon, Thorne was able to catch a glimpse of what lay beyond the wall. First, there was the glint of water in a broad canal, then the rich green of luxuriant vegetation, dotted here and there with the gleam of cylindrical crystal dwellings, and sloping in a series of terraces to a much wider canal than the first. Beyond this, in the dim distance, another series of terraces ascended to another elevated canal as high as the first, flanked by a wall like the one which they were now flying over. Beyond the second wall, they encountered desert once more, and for several hours continued their flight towards the west. Then the contour of the ground beneath them changed abruptly. It was as if they were on the shore of a vast ocean from which the water had suddenly evaporated. First they passed over rugged cliffs, then a gently sloping beach strewn with sand and boulders. This presently dipped sharply to what was now a marshy lowland, a vast expanse of shallow water dotted and streaked with patches of green vegetation. So absorbed was Thorne that he did not notice the menace that had crept silently up behind him. A shout from Lalvak and a backward gesture caused him to turn in time to see a cloaked and masked warrior mounted on a swiftly flying gar in the act of hurling a javelin at him. Behind his assailant he caught a fleeting glimpse of 4 more riders. He dodged just in time to avoid the barbed weapon. As it whizzed past him, he whirled his gar, then seized one of his own javelins and hurled it at his attacker. The rider avoided Thorne's shaft with ease, and in a moment more was above him with a drawn sword. Thorne whipped out his own weapon, parried a vicious head cut, and countered with a swift slash at the neck of his assailant. The blow fell true, nearly severing the fellow's head from his body. In the meantime, Lalvak and Yildu were engaged in a lively conflict. Thorne saw the powerful Jen of the free swordsman hurl a javelin with such force that it passed completely through the body of his nearest enemy. Lalvak was fighting a sword duel with another of the attackers. The 2 who remained each sought a single encounter, one with Yildu and the other with Thorne. The Earthman's new assailant hurled a javelin which fell short. He reached for another and drew it back for a throw just as Thorne hurled his weapon mightily. The fellow tried to throw and dodge at the same time. He ducked low, but not low enough. Thorne's javelin struck him in the eye. His own weapon flew wide of the mark, but struck a wing joint of the Earthman's mount. A moment later, Thorne found himself out of the saddle, dangling by his safety chains, while his crippled gar, fluttering futilely with its uninjured wing, turned over and over in the air as they hurtled swiftly towards the marsh 2,000 feet below. Will our hero survive this fall? Will his gar live to tell the tale? If gars lived to say anything at all. Find out next time on Chapter 4 of The Swordsman of Mars.